regular meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Commissioners to order, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Ryrie?
Here.
Commissioner Brennan? President Shankarelli?
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Here.
Commissioner Matoush?
Here.
We have a quorum, and we'll go on to item B, which is staff introduction and recognition. John?
Tonight we'd like to recognize the 20-year tenure of Michael Williams, who was at Pillar Point Harbor for his entire career, most of which off and on either acting in a supervisory role, most recently fulfilling the assistant harbor master role. It's a bittersweet situation where we all hate to see Willie leave us. I speak for all district staff in saying that with all confidence. However, we're very happy for Willie. It's a well-earned retirement, and one, of course, the very best for Willie. I'd like to get an opportunity for, obviously, there's several staff members here as well that I know well-respected. Willie throughout his entire 20 years, worked for 10, 15 years. And some of them also participated in some of Willie's rescue, life-saving efforts, for which he's got over 30 commendations for during his career. Our training officer, Carrie Smith, is here today. Carrie would like to say a couple words.
I don't think I need the mic, but thank you, John, for all your work, and thank you, Willie. You were a mentor, you were a partner, you were a friend, and it's sad to see you go. And we're going to have Jacob come up as well to share our thanks for you making our careers much better. You can think of times that we were lost in the fog on rescue watercraft when it was 80-foot waves, to the days in the harbor where we were unclogging toilets and chasing trash around, and everything in between. So I think one of the funny ones, we had a deer in the harbor, and we had to tow the deer offshore because there was nowhere to dispose of the deer. So we kind of do everything, and the number of lives that Willie touched and affected through life-saving and mentoring is countless. So Willie, it's with great honor that I'm here tonight to welcome you into retirement and miss you at the harbor. Thank you. I'm going to pass it to Deputy Harbor Master Jacob Baldwin for a couple words too.
Hi all, Mr. Williams. I worked with Mike for going on 13 years, and it was a complete joy. And you know, I came here, had prior experience at other harbors, and came from a kind of a wide-ranging background. And Mike was instrumental in really showing me the ins and outs of the harbor. Every harbor is so different. There's different electrical systems. You name it, they've got it. And Mike was the first guy that kind of grabbed me and said, "Come on, kid, we're gonna learn this all." And I am forever grateful for that knowledge. We had a lot of rescues along the way. Mike was nominated and won the Officer of the Year, along with myself, for a rescue we did where we pulled a family out of the break just north of Mavericks on the reef. And it was, I mean, he changed and saved a lot of lives along his career, and we are all thankful, myself included. And enjoy retirement, my friend. You definitely earned it, and we'll miss you for sure.
I'll say a couple things. I want to thank you all for the pleasure of allowing me to pursue a job that I love, which is being near the water and making a difference in people's lives and working on the edge of the world, at the gateways to our water world, both in the bay and on the ocean, and making a safe, pleasant place for people to enjoy the ocean. And you know, a lot of that stuff that runs together, but being always there and being ready is a big part of something I'm gonna miss. So, thank you all, and thanks for putting up with me.
Really, let's get a picture real quick
In
here.
front of the dais, someone can read the plaque. Careful here.
John?
All right, let's get
Okay.
Commissioner President Crawley.
Okay, Mike, so on behalf of the Harbor Board, we would like to present you with this plaque for the outstanding service that you have provided to not only the district, but the entire community. And this plaque says Mike Willie Williams in recognition of outstanding service and dedication for 20 years to the San Mateo County Harbor District, 1999 to 2019. It's a great pleasure and honor to present this to you on behalf of
Thank
the
you.
board.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much.
But if any of the commissioners want to say anything, I will parting the words for.
Don't be a stranger, Willie.
I'll come bug you once in a while.
Do you have anything to say to I want to open it up in case anyone wants to say.
I bought the Woolly Cat in 1999, and he's a little smarter than I am. He left in 2019. I'm still working on the boat.
Yeah, I'll say a few things. So, as a member of the public for a long time, I've had my sailboats here for quite a while, and I thought I'd just give you a perspective from the public side. I'm sure the guys know, but your perception I have of you is that you're quiet, you're steady, and you're really good under pressure. I've seen you under pressure as a member of the public a few times, and it's been great to have you there, and I personally really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be the only one who didn't say anything, Willie. I know you the shortest amount of time, and I wish you the best. It's only been during this last year that I've realized the critical life-saving job that you all do out at the harbor, and I'm just blown away by your work. So thank you very much for your service to our county.
I'm going to echo what Nancy and Tom and Ed have said. You've been a huge help for the whole entire community. I know that when I first got on board, I leaned on you a lot, and so I thank you for allowing me to lean on you and for always being there, not just for me, but for the board and for the district and for the community. So thank you very much for all that you've done.
Thank you all.
Okay, we have a couple of more.
We were going to introduce a couple of new staff tonight. However, Owen and Jeff will be introduced at our next meeting. Owen had to, we had an opening for a training in Southern California. He's at a training tonight. Then we've got Susan to introduce.
Lizzie Zarowski is here with us tonight, and she's our new communications analyst. I'd like to welcome her. She comes from an operations background and brings with her a passion for outreach and communications. She has a master's degree in business and most recently wrote emergency plans for San Mateo County Health Department. She is looking forward to building positive reputation of the district through social media and public engagement efforts. And in addition to the social media aspect of her job, she is working on becoming our ADA coordinator. She manages our IT services amongst a variety of other things. So thank you, Lizzie, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Welcome aboard, Lizzie. Thank you. I mean, you've been here for a little while, but we're glad to see you and have introduced you to the public. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to item C for public comments for items not on the agenda. I don't have any public comments, Debbie. Do you
I
have
never
any?
see them.
Nothing? Okay, then I'll close public comment, and then we'll go to committee updates for the standing committee. Climate change resilience, okay?
Who updates?
Okay. Finance, oh, I'm sorry, we do commissioner comments after that. Oyster Point liaison, I think that we're trying to schedule a meeting with the South San Francisco counterparts, I think to be determined still, right, Debbie? I don't know if there's a date that's been settled. Social media,
On social media, I have an update. Welcome, Lizzie. It's great to have you on board. Lizzie's taken over internal posts for meetings, RFPs, events, rescues, and employment. And as an update for our October outreach, we did 185 posts across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and reached almost 30,000 people on Facebook alone. The number of our followers on social media has increased to about 2,600 after a campaign for new followers for the Oyster Point Marina Facebook page. In public outreach, we're working on 6 events through 2019, including boat trips, nature walks, and for 2020, the possibility of a regular food truck one day a week at OPM, starting in the spring.
okay, wildlife protection, okay?
Good report.
Okay, the ad hoc committees, general manager search, Nancy and Carmen.
Yes, so Tom and I were on the ad hoc committee, the latest ad hoc committee for the GM search, and I must say that it was a great privilege to participate in the interview process for general manager. Tom and I relied heavily on the guidance of our HR professional, Andrew Nelson, to help move things forward in the most productive way possible and in accordance with best practices. He was very skilled. I'll just make a note that there were a couple of members of the community who had questions about the interview process itself, and personnel matters are always handled in closed session. It's not appropriate for staff or public to participate in interviews, and candidates expect and deserve confidentiality during the process. I have a quote from managementhelp.org, which helps provide some context. Applicants, this is the quote, applicants to the chief executive role deserve complete confidentiality. Make every effort not to expose applicants' names to the public or staff. If certain staff are selected to interview the candidates, they should be coached to not reveal candidate names to the rest of the staff. This confidentiality is not a matter of secrecy to manipulate. Rather, it is a matter of protecting candidates who may not want their names out in public as looking for a new job. Of course, this matter of confidentiality is ultimately up to the board, but if confidentiality is not assured, it is very likely that the number of candidates will be quite limited. So protecting confidentiality assures that the best candidates are considered for the position. So the commission interviewed 5 outstanding candidates on October 18th, and for most of them it was the 3rd or 4th round of interviews. As I said, I felt privileged to be a part of the process, especially because of the quality of each of the individuals. And I'm sure that all stakeholders will be very pleased with our decision and as excited as I am about our new executive director.
I'm just especially honored to have Jim Pruitt here tonight.
Okay, the strategic planning ad hoc committee, I think that we're going to be scheduling a strategic planning session ahead of the December meeting. I think that's still being scheduled as well. So look on the agenda for that item. And then the office design, Ed? Yep, you're on the office design committee.
No.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I missed commissioner comments, so we can go back to commissioner comments at this item two. Ed, do you have any commissioner comments?
No.
Tom?
I'd like to report that recreational crabbing and fishing is excellent. The harbor's been full of people, as these gentlemen here will attest. It's been a packed, chaotic house. It's become the largest opening of any fishery in the entire state. I do have some less than happy news. Commercial crab has been delayed again due to too many whales. It's hoped that the latest wind event will push the anchovies further offshore and that the whales will follow the food source and leave everything clear for the commercial fishing gear.
Yeah, I'll report out on the CSDA meeting. Josh Cosgrove wasn't able to attend, so I ran the meeting, and I had invited Supervisor Horsley to speak, and also Larry Patterson. Supervisor Horsley gave an interesting mini state of the county update. He said that about an eighth of the new jobs in the county are related to housing, and how much our communities have ended up paying for our housing shortages with the traffic problems that we all experience now. He also mentions the wonderful new Sanchez Adobe Visitor Center. And if you haven't been to the Sanchez Adobe Visitor, or to the site itself in Pacifica, it's a really interesting part of our old history, and the new visitor center is really special. Mr. Patterson's presentation was similar to the talk he gave here to the Harbor District in September. Something that I hadn't recalled is that it was the 2015 grand jury report, Flooding Ahead, Planning for Sea Level Rise, that led to the creation of the agency by suggesting the county and its 20 cities need a coordinated approach to effectively address flooding, sea level rise, regional stormwater infrastructure, and coastal erosion across the county as a whole. So it was interesting to hear his presentation again.
Okay, I just have a short thing. I had a meeting with our new general counsel and our new general counsel team. So I want to thank Tricia Ortiz again for meeting with me. I know that you're going to be meeting with all the other commissioners and some of the staff members as well. So thanks for getting us started on this new relationship.
This is your first regular meeting, isn't it?
Yes, welcome. Thank you. Okay, so going on to the consent item, which is item D. Does anyone like to pull off any consent items? Or a motion?
Motion to approve items 1 through 7.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
President Chancarelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Ryrie?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Great, the motion carries. So I'm going to rearrange some of our regular meeting items, the discussion items, mainly to get the operational parts of the Harbor District business done first. So basically, items 10 through 14 will be put closer to the end. We do want to make sure that you know that Karen's here, so do the presentation tonight. Right, I see you, right. So, but I do what I normally do is to just get the business part done. So I'll put, I'd like to move forward item 9, which is the appointment of James Pruitt as general manager, and to adopt resolution number 19-15 to approve an employment agreement and authorize the board president to execute the employment agreement. And so I just want to, before we move on to the item, I just want to say that per the Brown Act,
There's a commission comment, or a comment.
okay. So, let me finish what I was gonna say first, so that, because this is in compliance with the Brown Act. So I'm required to orally report that the proposed employment agreement is basically for the terms of the contract with the new GM, and those terms are that the new general manager will receive $170,000 in annual salary, a $350 a month automobile allowance, and a $1,250 housing allowance for the first 12 months, and other benefits that are outlined in the proposed employment agreement. I do have a public comment for this item. John Olin.
John Allen, Halfmoon Bay. Just want to say, after looking at what you had, the gentleman you selected as record, you guys did a heck of a job. Looked like the whole process from beginning to end resulted in a really good outcome. And I understand why the public could not be involved in the actual interview process. That totally makes sense. Not clear why there was accusations that the public was not allowed to participate, when it was clear that they're not allowed to participate, but that's okay. At any rate, welcome aboard. Glad you're here. Gotta say, you ain't good enough. Good luck.
Okay, Julie, this is your report. I don't know if you want to take it from here, if you had anything to say.
Well, it is a committee report. Do you want
Or
to do
if
that,
you want-
Nancy, or would you like me to read it?
You can read it.
Okay. All right, so the recommendation here is to appoint James Pruitt as the general manager and adopt resolution number 19-15, approve the employment agreement, and authorize the board president to execute. Following an extensive recruitment process, the ad hoc general manager search committee recommends Captain James Pruitt for general manager of the district. Pruitt has spent his career as a commissioned officer in the United States Coast Guard, most recently serving as the 11th Coast Guard District's Chief of Staff in Alameda. District 11 includes all of California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, as well as the offshore waters of Mexico and South America, totaling over 3.3 million square nautical miles. Pruitt is a native of Pacifica and is no stranger to the area. As a child, his family owned a fishing business at Pillar Point Harbor, and he spent his spare time walking the docks there. In 1991, he received his Coast Guard commission at Officer Candidate School in Yorktown, Virginia. Early in his Coast Guard career, he served in the marine safety and prevention field. His tours included marine safety offices in Portland, Oregon, American Samoa, and the Puget Sound. Later, Pruitt served 9 years in several legal assignments as a judge, advocate, and law specialist. His assignments included serving as the staff judge advocate at the United States Coast Guard Academy and chief counsel to the superintendent, deputy staff judge advocate for the 7th Coast Guard District, and staff legal officer Pacific Area Maintenance and Logistics Command Pacific from 2003 through 2006 in Alameda, California. Prior to his assignment as District Chief of Staff, Pruitt served as the commander of Coast Guard Sector Guam, where he directed all Coast Guard missions across the U.S. territory of Guam and Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. He also directed a search and rescue region that encompassed the Federated States of Micronesia and the Republic of Palau. Pruitt also previously served as the Deputy Commander Sector in Miami. The summary is to adopt Resolution 19-15, approving appointment of James Pruitt as the General Manager, approve the employment agreement, and authorize the board president to execute the agreement. The operating budget includes funds for the general manager position. As you previously said, the general manager will receive an annual salary of $170,000, a monthly automobile allowance of $350, and a monthly housing allowance of $1,250 for the first 12 months of employment, and benefits as outlined in the attached employment agreement.
Great. Is there a motion?
I'd like,
Is there a motion and then y'all can discuss? Nancy?
I'd like to move to appoint Mr. James Pruitt as general manager, adopt resolution number 19-15, approve employment agreement, and authorize the board president to execute.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Aye.
President Shankarali,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryren, sorry.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Welcome aboard, Mr. Pruitt. Okay, moving on to the second item. It's going to go through the old regular agenda. So the Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Erosion Protection Project update presentation.
This is information only, is receiving an update presentation from San Mateo County Harbor District Design Engineering Consultant, GHD, ESA, regarding progress on the West Trail Erosion Living Shoreline project. Tonight we've got Brian Leslie, who is a lead coastal scientist with GHD, and we've got Louis White, Brad Damitz, and Bob Mateo, the team members that are helping the district through this very challenging project.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
What's this?
That's good. There we go. Your flashlight's out. Thank you to commissioners for having us here tonight. My name is Brian Leslie with GHD, and excited to provide an update on the West Trail
Nice to meet you.
Living Shoreline project. We've been busy at work and have lots of show. Tonight we're going to talk about a brief introduction to the project for those that are new to it. Go through data collection and our 30% design. Our 30% design was just submitted to the district last week for review and comment. And walk through permitting a little bit, what's the approval process looking like, and timeline and next steps. There we go. Okay, so the project has two major components. The stormwater improvement side of things, and there's the shoreline protection. Stormwater improvements, there's a concrete storm drain that runs through our site. There's also this corrugated metal pipe that runs up the hillside, and which leads to a concrete swell. We have goals and objectives to improve the aesthetics and function of the stormwater infrastructure, reduce maintenance costs. We understand it's kind of a maintenance bleed over time, and there's could be some improvements there. And secondarily, there's opportunities to improve water quality. There's a direct discharge to the harbor right now. We could improve water quality by moving this discharge to proliferate marsh, like upland portions of. And also by doing that, increase the ecological value of the marsh and do some great things. So that's an exciting component of the project. And then of course, there's the shoreline protection side. We have this 300+ section of coastline that's got this vertical face, and it's got some safety elements, emergency access elements, different things going on, but we want to shore up this segment of the coastline that has had problems. And we want to use a nature-based design technique, so use kind of what's there, queuing off the geomorphology of the shoreline and the harbor and the region, using kind of native rock and cobble and sand. So progress to date, we've been doing a lot on the data collection side, and we've submitted our 30% design, and ahead of us is more engineering. We've got a 60-90% final engineering design submittal. Of course, permitting and CEQA approvals are ahead of us, and we're targeting construction in fall of 2020. So on the data collection side, we've collected high-resolution topo, bathymetry, and wave and water level data. And that's been all ESA has done that, and also helping us with geomorphic design of this project. Also, we've collected sediment samples of our beach and nearby reference sites to understand where we can borrow sand to kind of create this beach and dune system. We've also collected some biological surveys to understand what these reference beaches are on either side of us and these dune systems and what kind of vegetation communities they're comprised of to understand what we can incorporate into our design. Also, we've done a eelgrass survey of our site and surrounding areas to understand whether that's going to be a major constraint, which it's not. We don't have eelgrass offshore. And then off to the left is something you might have seen in your harbor. That's our ESA's wave gauge and our wave gauge that's been out there for a number of months now. It's been just redeployed. And also lots of topo and bathy, some field crews out there. But I'm going to hand it off right now to Louis to talk more about data that's been collected on their side to date and some preliminary findings.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so I'm Louis White. I'm a civil engineer and coastal engineer with ESA in San Francisco, and we're supporting the PhD team on several aspects. And so what I'm going to tell you about is some of the data collection that we've done so far. The site is this 300+ foot section between the Pillar Point Marsh and the beach and the headland where there are a couple of benches, and just past the headland is a natural beach. And so we started by doing a topographic and bathymetric survey where our team went out with set up unknown control out there that was set and surveyed. In the top left photo is one of my colleagues in a wetsuit who went out to wading depths with the rod, and we did a contour survey of the bathymetry. And we also worked with another company called Sierra Overhead Analytics, who used a drone-based LiDAR approach. They flew the site and collected aerial imagery and the topography, and we tied that all in together into the same vertical data and horizontal used for the design and other water level data collection. And the bottom shows an example of our sediment sampling. We did a couple of grab samples, and we know the location and the elevation of where those were taken. And so here's an overview of the topographic and bathymetric data that was combined with the imagery. The image that was the high resolution image that's collected is the U kind of shaped, funny shaped area, but it encompasses our site, and it's all georeferenced, so we're able to locate that relative to all the construction activities. And so you can see from this image that immediately offshore of the site there's some interesting bathymetric topography where it's very flat. If you move from to the west from the marsh, you can see it's a very gradual flat slope. When the lines are far apart, then that means that it's very flat. But and then as compared to over at the left side where there's the natural beach and the lines are close together, it's a steeper beach and shore there. And so these other lines, the black lines on there represent transects that we took with the field to ground survey to use as a check on the other data that we collected using the aerial based survey. And then it also shows where the reference site data was collected for the So, and here's a reference site. So the way that we're informing the design of a natural beach is to use something that we call applied geomorphology, which is really entails using reference sites where we measure the change in the elevations and what kind of vegetation or other natural features may be associated with that. So the top curve there, that is a vertical profile or a cross-section of this beach right here. So it starts on the left, where the marsh, through some dunes, and then right in the middle of it is about, corresponds to where the red arrow goes to the bottom of the dune vegetation, and then the beach slope now to a more shallow slope in the subtidal area. And similarly, for the beach just to the west of our site, we took two reference sites. So this one, you can see the dune area is a lot wider here, and there's a natural kind of swale between the trail and the dunes. And we've got another one that we think is more representative of our site, where the dunes are a little bit more narrow. And but so what we use all this information for is to tabulate certain parameters that we've relate to geomorphic design guidelines for restoring natural shores that ESA and others have been involved in. And so we looked at the reference guides for dunes and for cobble beaches, and we've used this reference information to understand what those elevations and parameters are, the values of these parameters are for our site, so we can apply them to the design and come up with a design that we think will have minimal adjustments after it's built, and so it will perform the way we anticipate. And part of that is the physical forcings of the waves and the water levels. And so we've deployed, this is our wave gauge, a product by a company called So Far in San Francisco, and they've come up with these new buoys that are cheap, relatively cheap compared to the traditional buoys that would collect the same data. And so we're using that, and we've deployed it in the location just offshore of our site is where the buoy measurements are, and then over on the fishing pier by the inner harbor is where we deployed a water level gauge to measure the tides over time. And so we have concurrent, coincident water levels and wave data that we can use to construct an understanding of what the wave climate is like at our site. And here's some preliminary findings, what we have. And so these, I know, are a little complicated, but they're called wave rows. So the circle on the left shows the colors are different wave heights, and the direction indicates the direction that the waves are coming from, and the width of that has to do with the percent of time. So what that is telling you, most of the time the waves are between a quarter of a foot and a half a foot coming from about 140 degrees relative to the north. And that coincides, after looking at this plan view, it coincides with the direction of waves diffracting and entering through the entrance and coming toward our site. And so that's a good check on what is the direction of the wave energy here. And we did record waves that are on the order of about half a foot at high tides, up to about 0.6 feet, which sounds small, but they also have relatively long wavelengths and periods. And so what that means is that those longer period small waves are still able to move sediment around. And we've diagnosed some of the erosion issues as related to waves reflecting off the shore and moving sediment away from the section of beach that we're interested in. And it's interesting because the beach just next door is very wide and there's a lot of sand there, but there's no sand that will spot where we're looking at. So part of that is informing how we come up with a design to retain sediment at the site. The bottom graph shows the water levels, and I'll point out that there's an influence on the waves by the tide. And so at lower tides, the waves are very small and waves aren't penetrating through the entrance. But during higher tides, we're seeing from the measurements that the waves will be up to about half a foot or so. So these are energy spectra, frequency spectra of the swells, and what the different colors represent are different swell events that we measured over the summer. And then the different graphs are, the top one is our measurements in the harbor, and then the near shore is some output of a site immediately outside of the harbor, and the bottom is down at Monterey. And what you can see here is that we're seeing the same swells signals show up. So we're pretty confident that what we're measuring is actually real data and not noise, even though we're operating it within these small wave heights. We were wondering, is this real? And we convinced ourselves that we think it is. And so this is just a schematic of the conceptual sediment transport in our site. So you can see waves being moved by moving the sand from around by Mavericks Beach up and over the breakwater, and it's also moved by wind as well. And then waves that penetrate through the breakwater into the entrance drive sand up toward the north, toward our site. And this slide includes swell penetrating through the entrance and diffracting, and also reflecting off of the shore, which are the dashed lines. And we've confirmed that by visual observations out at the site, watching some waves reflect and turn and bounce back on the shore. And all this is important because it relates to the sediment transport at the site. And so what this shows is, as the waves are approaching from the south, they have a wider angle relative to the shore, which tends to drive sediment faster along the shore. But then as you get closer to the headland, the wave crests are about parallel with the shore, which means that the sediment transport slows down and you end up with more of a stable beach with less transport. But then as you get to our site of interest, the waves still are coming at an angle that drive the sediment away. And so that this informs our design for how do we, Brian's going to talk about how do we retain the sediment at the site.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Louis. So we're using all that data reflected in all this analysis to inform our 30% concept design. So I want to share that with you tonight for both the stormwater improvements and the living shoreline. And first we'll talk about the shoreline improvements. Again, this is the existing condition with the corrugated metal pipe, the concrete swale. We want to develop this bioretention basin at the toe of the existing bluff. And what we're going to do is take this drainage and divert it into this basin. And the concept is to remove the existing corrugated metal pipe and to remove the concrete pipe that goes underneath the trail. Remove those two features. The corrugated metal pipe would then turn into a rock line channel. And so with the gunite swell, concrete swell up the hillside would also be this concrete rock line channel. And we have some concepts that we're floating, like can we do in that really steep part where the corrugated metal pipe is, with some big rocks and kind of have this like cascading water feature, things like that. But we think we're safe to remove those, and we've done the calcs to kind of understand the system. And we want to divert that water into this bioretention basin, planted with native vegetation communities. And then the next step is to have this water then discharge into the Pillar Point Marsh. The storm drain outlet on the north end is actually an existing culvert. We could use that or maybe improve it. And we're thinking we might need another discharge point. These are very conceptual. The locations are we know this one on the south end is not the perfect spot, but we're still kind of working through some kinks. But again, very excited about this for the ecological benefit to the marsh and also for water quality improvements, removing that direct discharge. Just an example of a rock line channel, and what this concrete swale would become. And this is just an example. We try to match existing aesthetics, bring in natural kind of local rock. And again, we're still evaluating this kind of waterfall type feature with these kind of big rocks at the bottom. As for our shoreline protection concept, this is our existing site again. And the concept is to use the rock that's there as much as we can. Clearly there's some man-made rock. There's like just concrete blocks like the one on the lower left that we might not keep around, but there's also existing gravel and rock that we want to use. And what we want to do, and there's a lot going on in this graphic, so we'll kind of step through it as a kind of a layer cake. I'm going to go through the lower layer first. And this is a cobble berm or a dynamic revetment. So we think with the oblique wave approach angle that we're going to have sediment and cobble, things moving to the right side. Like things are kind of moving down beach. So what we're thinking is we need this cobble to help serve as a last line defense for the trail. Cobble is about a 6-inch diameter rock. So it'd be basically a pile of cobble directly abutting the trail. Cobble's great in that it's bigger than sand, so it sticks around better. It can withstand higher wave energy. And actually, in really high wave energy, it gets kind of gets steeper and higher, so it has this natural response that's a benefit for shoreline protection. And Bob wrote stuff for the state on how to design these things, so we got the right team. But we think that the way the waves approach the site, that we might lose cobble downdrift. So we're proposing these rock fingers, which these rock fingers would be like 8 foot long by 4 foot by 4 foot kind of blocks that would protrude straight, short, perpendicular, serve as kind of like a groin, but groin to retain cobble on our site. So that's our underlayer. And then our primary layer, all this would be filled with sand. We have sand from the boat launch ramp, 1,600 cubic yards. We want to definitely make use of that. And there's other areas within the harbor that have surplus. We want to try to tap into those and help feed the project. We need about 6,500 cubic yards to build a project right now, and so we want to build out this beach and hopefully a dune system similar to the reference beaches that Louis spoke to. So in section view, it looks something like this. You see the cobble berm, dynamic revetment that's right up against the trail. A flush curb to kind of protect the edge of the trail, kind of make a nice clean edge. And then the sandy beach and dune system. We view this functioning similar to the Service Point project in Ventura. That was an ESA design project, and what that was a cobble mattress and with a dune system on top of it with a retreat element as well. But essentially, that kind of goes between two modes of a sandy mode and exposed cobble mode. So when we first built it, our project, it would look something like November 2017 at Silver Beach, and then as time went on, it might look closer to March 2016. But again, there's within our permits, we're exploring whether we can tie in kind of maintenance nourishment episodes. That's kind of an easy thing possibly to do. If the boat launch ramp needs dredging again, maybe we can just open this site up to receive sediment as it becomes available elsewhere. Kind of opportunistic. We shared our concept with a number of resource agencies, and Brad is here to kind of give us an update on what we learned.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
I'll keep it short because I know permitting is not the most exciting topic to discuss, but
It's important, Brad.
it's important, yes it is. And there's a few, Brian kind of alluded to this, there's a few elements of this project that make it a bit challenging from a permitting perspective. One thing is that we're filling in waters of the U.S. with material. We're dredging other material from other parts of the harbor and placing it there. The fact that living shoreline concepts like this is fairly new in this part of California, so the permitting agencies are still trying to figure out exactly how to approach it. And then there's some sensitive biological resources that we need to deal with as well, including a heron rookery right up above the trail. So, a number of permits involved. I won't go through all of these, but the main permitting agencies that we're dealing with are the Army Corps of Engineers, Regional Water Quality Control Board, San Francisco, and the Coastal Commission in the county who will issue. It will be mostly the Coastal Commission issuing what's called a consolidated coastal development permit, which covers the interests of the county as well. And then there's a couple other agencies that really will dictate kind of the final design of the project and what will be acceptable or not, but will not be actually issuing a permit. And those are the U.S. EPA, NOAA Fisheries, National Marine Fisheries Service, it's a really big one. California Department of Fish and Wildlife, very involved. And I've got the Regional Water Quality Control Board, again, on there from a different perspective from the permitting. Two agencies that you don't see out there that I suppose we're lucky are the sanctuary, because Monterey Bay Sanctuary's jurisdiction excludes the harbors, and State Lands Commission as well, because all of that land has been granted to the harbor district. So, what we've done so far as permitting agency consultation is, this seems rather straightforward, but identifying the necessary permits and consultations is a little more complex than that. In fact, so, for example, the Army Corps of Engineers actually has a nationwide permit for living shorelines, but it doesn't apply to this type of structure. So, there's a lot of little things that we needed to kind of figure out in the beginning. We've met individually with all of those agencies that I mentioned in the last slide, and we've had very, very good positive feedback. People are very supportive of us not just building with the harbor district, not just building, a seawall and shoring up that structure. They like the nature-based approach. Brian and I presented at a multi-agency meeting that the Army Corps of Engineers hosts every month in San Francisco, and got some good feedback from that as well. And the way that we've been working is it's sort of an iterative process because of the nature of the project and all the different elements. We've been taking input from the permitting agencies and kind of feeding that back to the engineers and working so that the design reflects that input from the beginning so we don't have any surprises towards the end. So I guess that addresses the identified and address agency questions and concerns, and we'll continue to do that as well. And we're in the beginning stage of filling out the permit applications. We've already submitted all the preliminary reports and familiarized the agency staff with that. We really can't officially submit or it won't be considered final until the CEQA document accompanies it. So probably sometime in the beginning of the year we'll have all that. But the permitting agencies will already have been familiarized with it. So it's kind of a quick rundown of the permitting process. And so far so good. A lot of good support, a few challenges, but nothing that we see that's going to compromise the project. So I'll hand it back to Brian to kind of sum things up and next steps.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, so next steps. We have our wave gauge back out there. We're trying to capture some of these west well events, or the winter well season, and also the water level. Permitting, as Brad mentioned, is ongoing, and we're looking to get some applications in shortly, as soon as we kind of iron out some details. Final engineering, we've submitted 30%. We're going to get some feedback from you guys on that, and probably pause to start 60% until we start kind of working through some environmental feedback. And then CEQA we want to kick out this week, actually. ESA is leading that, so we're kicking them off this Friday. So that's going on. And then construction documents, we're targeting a late summer 2020 for out to bid, and construction starting in fall of 2020. I want to acknowledge some of our team members that aren't here today. Definitely a team effort. And I want to leave you with our rendering of our vision for this project. This is the existing condition, and this is what we're working towards. Open up for any questions.
Okay, thanks so much. And I know this is informational, but if there are any questions, any comments?
Yeah, I have some questions, if you
Please.
guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go back there, you know.
Either way, you can sit there.
More used to being a member of the audience. Great job. First, just like to congratulate you guys. As you know, this has been a long time coming. A lot of work's been done, and I'm really happy that we have Brad doing all the groundwork on the permitting. It sounds like you didn't run into any major issues, which is really great. I have a question. It seems like this project, because of the location and the basic theme, is relatively new, like you said, in this area. And so how are your colleagues looking at this? Are they thinking it's going to be something that will help them do work in other areas that are similar? Are you getting any feedback? So that's one question. And then the other is on the wave gauge. Do you anticipate any surprises when we start getting the big winter swells?
So, yeah, I'm Bob Mateo, PSA, and work with Lewis and these other folks. So as far as our colleagues, I haven't spoken that much with folks. I thought when we walked out to the site with the Coastal Commission staff that came out to talk to us, I thought they were pretty excited about it. There is a buzz, I think, in the state of California, and actually policy encouraging nature-based solutions rather than traditional. And I think there is some excitement, and there will be more excitement when it gets to be a little more real, especially once it's constructed. And certainly, as you know, we help the state, along with Nature Conservancy and Point Blue and a few others, to develop some guidelines as part of the fourth climate assessment of these types of features. And then there's also SFDI has done something similar in San Francisco Bay. So, this is what the state paid for that, because they wanted those studies, because they want this type of approach to go forward. So I think it's going to be exciting, but I don't know that we've really rolled it out. We haven't taken it to a conference or anything yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that many people know about it yet.
I did see somebody from the Coastal Commission this morning who said, mentioned that she had just seen a presentation from Brad and Brian, and that she was excited about the project.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
So,
And then as far as the waves go, yeah, absolutely, we expect to see something, a signal in the harbor, just based on, walking out there over the years and seeing waves. Again, it's the harbor, we expect to see bigger waves. We were fortunate to get the wave instrumentation out. We did it on purpose, actually, to catch some of those south swells in Mulway, in the southern hemisphere. So I think we got a good read on that, and this winter we'll get a good read on the northern Pacific swells. And we've gotten one just this past week, Friday.
Yeah.
And but we're hoping to get some bigger ones for a couple of reasons. And we expect the waves to probably penetrate over and through the breakwater at high tide a little bit more, and we're looking at the angle of approach is our primary interest, as well as the height and the overall power and the potential to move sediment, basically. So that's what. Yeah. Well, does that answer your?
Yeah. And one last question, if I may. One thought I had was this could potentially be a pilot study in the harbor to help understand wave action and sediment movement in the harbor, and looking at other areas in the harbor where we have some coastal harboring. Some of it's legacy stuff that's just broken up concrete that's just been thrown down over the years, and maybe with the county and with some input from the harbor district, start to look at dealing with getting that armoring out of the harbor and then going back in natural beaches again.
I mean, actually, you're all pretty fortunate having the outer breakwaters in a way, because it's a big sand trap. I know that can be a plus and a minus.
Right.
But on the other hand, with sea level rise and, the development and interest in this area, it seems to make sense to look at creating beaches and using these natural shore forms. It provides the multiple outputs or, multiple objectives are achieved, and you can probably get funding more readily for those types of projects nowadays, I think. That's been my experience.
In fact, Bob and I and Brian met with Joe Leclerc and Summer Burleson from the county who are working on Plan Princeton, presented this concept. And they were very interested in it because they're looking at doing something similar along the Princeton shoreline. So they're very, looking closely at what we're doing, design and everything. That's down the road quite some time, but same kind of concept with that mixed match armoring stuff and replacing that with some sort of beach nourishment and cobble structure.
Right. So that's one of my goals for next year, is to bring them to our climate change resiliency meeting and have you guys there so we can have a longer discussion about how to work together, since the Princeton shoreline is the harbor.
Yep, and they're very interested in working with us as well, maybe applying for some grants, doing some studies and stuff before they hit.
That's fantastic. Right.
Yeah, that really does make a lot of sense from my perspective anyway, in terms of looking at the harbor kind of as a, what's the term, operational landscape unit is the term that SFEI is using in the bay now. And it's a physical feature, kind of like a watershed, so an action in one place affects another, and obviously there's a need to manage some sand. It's in some places that are good, some places that aren't.
Right.
So it's all kind of linked together, I think, at some level.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Did you say how far we are out from beginning? Where are we with the permitting process again?
So permitting, we've done initial meetings, consultation, pre-application stuff. And I've begun filling out the permitting applications, and we're providing information in advance. But until we have that CEQA document, the initial study, mitigated negative declaration, they're not going to consider it complete. So realistically, even if we submit everything in November, we're going to have to wait a month or two until the CEQA is complete before it.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for doing this brief.
Could you just for the record and for the public that folks that might watch this in video form, could you just say a little bit more about what CEQA is?
Yeah, CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act, and it's an act that has requirements for identifying environmental impacts of certain projects and activities in advance. And there's different levels of studies that you can do and all kinds of specific rules. But for a project that's being proposed by the Harbor District as a state entity, they have to follow all the requirements of CEQA, and then the Coastal Commission and the permitting agencies will use that analysis to make their decisions on potential impacts and whether or not they can permit the project.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on to item 3, which should be item 16, which is the design engineering permitting consultant Moffitt and Nickel professional services agreement change order consideration for the Pillow Point Harbor Fishing Pier rehabilitation. John?
This is a motion to authorize the interim manager to implement a change order to the previously approved Pillow Point Harbor Fishing Pier Rehabilitation Project Professional Services Agreement with consultant Moffitt and Nickel, increasing the design, engineering, permitting, and construction support total by $13,300, and approve an increase in capital project appropriations by the same amount. The existing fishing pier is 30 years old and provides fishing activities to the non-boating public, and is a vital component of the Pillow Point Harbor. The fishing pier was constructed in 1989 over and adjacent to an existing riprap breakwater. This facility presently consists of a concrete piled timber pier structure, an access walkway structure serving the pier from shore, and the original supporting revetment breakwater that was further enhanced in 1989 for the purposes of this fishing pier facility. The fishing pier does not meet ADA standards, so updates are necessary, required, in addition to the age challenges. In October 2017, the district board approved entering into a professional services agreement with consultant Moffitt Nickel for $82,600 to initiate project design, engineering, permitting, and regulatory compliance, invitation for bid, and construction support. Project technical specifications were completed in May 2019. To date, all permits have been obtained. The project invitation for bid for construction was issued on June 5th, 2019. Bids were opened on July 10th, and the contractor, Valentine Corporation, was subsequently found to be the lowest qualified bidder. District Board approved $427,369 for actual improvement construction, and the work is fortunately already underway. On October 22nd, 2019, Moffitt Nickel submitted the attached change order proposal, Exhibit A, to increase the design, engineering, permitting, regulatory compliance, invitation for bid, and construction support total by $13,300 due to unforeseen additional challenges with required design modifications and permitting costs during the design phase. Moffitt Nickel will continue assisting the district with contractor requests for information and construction support. In short, during the design phase and the permitting phase, we ran into substantial permitting challenges, which ended up taking quite a bit of time and resources for us to address. But Moffitt Nickel was fortunately able to address all of the Coastal Commission and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers challenges, which were primarily related to the additional riprap reinforcement that we're doing as well. And the relationships that Moffitt Nickel had with the permitting agencies and all the meetings that we had subsequently enabled us to resolve all of those challenges in a timely manner. However, it was considerably more time and resources than what they had originally anticipated. And they are also making concession to some degree in coming up with only this $13,300 figure to take us through the completion of the rest of the entire project. Already we've been having almost daily requests for information and having to ask them to review submittals. And I will need their assistance throughout the rest of the project in order to ensure that the contractor, who does seem to be doing an excellent job, but to ensure that they do build the project and the project is constructed to the design, engineering, technical specifications.
Okay, I'll open it up to discussion. I actually have a question. We'll start with Tom.
Well, I think before we have a discussion about a motion, so a motion to authorize the interim general manager to implement a change order to the previously approved Boat Point Harbor Fishing Pier Rehabilitation Project Professional Services Agreement with consultant Moffitt Nickel, increasing the design, engineering, permitting, and construction support by $13,300 and approve an increase in capital project appropriations by the same amount.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, now I'll open it up for discussion. All in favor?
No.
I just have a question, John, and I can't remember, I remember when this item was discussed at the very end of the June meeting. Was there not a contingency that was built in here? I
Not
can't
for that.
remember.
There was for the actual construction.
Yeah, but
And-
this is also the design.
Yeah, this is design engineering. We usually have that as a not to exceed amount.
Yeah, okay.
But of course, that is based on what they anticipate, at the time. And again, I'm confident in all of the meetings that we've had and the progress that we've made, that Moffett and Nickel are doing due diligence to ensure that our costs are kept low, and the actual construction costs are going to be within the budgeted amount, and hopefully not have to have any change orders with regard to the actual construction.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
President Shankarelli.
Aye.
Commissioner Ryder.
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. And we'll go to item 17, which is the board direction to staff regarding amendment to the San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code, Section 3.35.020, Marina Harbor Parking Ordinance. John.
Right, this is a motion requesting the board to direct staff to publish notice in a newspaper general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days prior to ordinance code amendment adoption, and place the resolution to amend the district parking ordinance code section 3.35.020 for consideration on the agenda for the December 18, 2019 district board meeting. The San Mateo County Harbor District currently allows all berthing tenants in good standing at both Pillar Point and Oyster Point Marina to receive parking permits for 2 vehicles. The parking permits are for specific parking places close to dock gates and are intended for the convenience of our berthing tenants to ensure they have ample parking as close to their slips as is possible. Regretfully, we have found some berthing tenants are actually storing large commercial vehicles for off-site business use at the district facilities, claiming the large vehicles are their allowed personal vehicles allotted with berthing rental, which is not the intent of the parking permits. This illicit use of parking spaces displaces those berthing tenants that are trying to park to truly use the vessels. In addition, some berthing tenants are sleeping in large box trucks and conducting business from within them without authorized commercial activity permits. The attached proposed parking ordinance amendment restricts this illicit use so staff can better ensure parking is available for actual berthing tenant needs. The attached proposed changes make clear that only berthing tenant personal vehicles are to be issued parking permits and provide staff tools necessary to ensure berthing tenants have ample parking close to their slips. Pursuant to Harbors and Navigations Code, Section 6070.2, which requires a minimum 20 days notice period for public review and comment on proposed ordinance code adoptions and revisions. If the board approves today, staff will notice the proposed amendment accordingly. Staff will bring any comments received to the board's attention prior to final amendment change consideration at the district December 18, 2019 board meeting.
Okay.
I'll move to direct staff to publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days prior to ordinance code amendment adoption, and place the resolution to amend the district parking ordinance code section 3.35.020 for consideration on the agenda for the December 18th, 2019 district board meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
A comment?
Ed, please.
I'd just like to thank you, John, for putting this on the agenda. It's something I wanted to bring at some point anyway, because I've noticed that it has been a problem. And it's not only a problem because it takes up space, but usually folks that are kind of trying to work under the radar bring other problems along with them. And I think this is going to go a long way to solving some of the things that we see out there. So I appreciate you just taking it and making it happen.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Commissioner Ryder.
Aye.
President Shankarelli.
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries, and we'll go on to item 18. which is the direction of staff regarding a new administration office. John?
And this is a recommendation for the board to direct staff on how the board desires to move forward with the architectural design, engineering, permitting, and construction support for constructing a district administrative office on the newly purchased district-owned Portola Avenue property in El Granada. Relieving the district of the burden of lease payments and securing a permanent home for the district administration office are clearly long-held goals of the district, as the district continues to pay in excess of $90,000 per year in rent for this administrative building that we're in right now. Pursuant to this effort, on June 6, 2019, at board direction, the district finalized a purchase of 0.31 acre vacant lot at the corner of Obispo and Portela Avenue here in El Granada. On June 19, 2019, after the district had successfully purchased the lot, a district admin office design ad hoc committee comprised of 2 board members was created and populated to direct staff in advising the full board on the best alternative to move forward with new building design and to discuss potential partnering with Grenada Community Services District, who had already formed a light ad hoc committee for this purpose. GCSD has expressed interest in potentially partnering with the district in some manner, as they too are renting office space and desire to develop a permanent home with sufficient community meeting space. If possible, it is believed that the 2 districts partnering in the site development would be the most efficient use of public funds, and it would benefit both districts and the public. On August 15, 2019 and September 30th, 2019, the district and GCSD ad hoc committees met to discuss potential partnering. To date, it is still uncertain if this partnership will be feasible, as GCSD is considering several other alternatives. A request for proposal for architectural design, engineering, permitting, and construction support for a district administrative office building on a newly purchased lot was advertised. The request for proposal, the RFP, successfully concluded on September 27, 2019, with 5 qualified firms responding. The district ad hoc committee suggested that staff place all responses on a Dropbox link so that all 5 commissioners could review them, then give an opportunity for a special meeting to be held if more than 2 commissioners wish to interview the respondents to the RFP. In order to provide an opportunity for more than just 2 commissioners to assist in evaluating the firms and making a recommendation to the full board on one of the firms to choose for design engineering of our new admin building. Subsequently, 3 commissioners notified staff they wish to have the full board weigh in and all of this explained to them and direct staff on how to move forward. Thus today's request for staff direction. The board may decide on one of the following motions, or of course modify them, or direct staff in the manner so desired. One potential motion would be to direct staff to arrange a board meeting so that any commissioners that wish to participate in interviewing the 5 RFP design engineering respondents can do so, then bring a recommendation to the full board for one of those respondents. Or alternative 2 might be for the board to direct staff at this time to arrange an admin office design ad hoc committee meeting so that the 2 assigned commissioners can interview the 5 respondents and make a recommendation to the full board at a subsequent regularly scheduled board meeting. Alternatively, the board may make a motion to reject all 5 RFP response proposals and put the project on hold until the district master plan is developed. Staff just needs to have direction on how the board wishes to move forward.
Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. Nancy, you want to start?
I've read the motion alternatives, and I think something close to motion alternative number 1 would be the direction that I'm leaning. I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
I sooner rather than later, so rather than delay things, I would say motion alternative 1. Let's have the meeting, let's make a decision, let's move on.
Ed?
Well, I support with our original intent of the ad hoc committee, which was to ask the board members if they wanted to attend a special meeting to do exactly what we're talking about, which it seems like that's alternative 1 if I understand it, so I'm in complete support of that. I'm a little surprised that it came to the board this way, but I'm happy to see that at least it seems to have some support. I disagree with my colleague that we want to get this done very quickly. I think this is another big decision for us. We want to, in my view, we should make an effort to bring the public in to help us evaluate, and having a meeting like this will go a long way to bringing that to happen, and we should take our time and do it right.
I'm in concurrence with alternative 1 as well. I think it's important for the whole board to at least kind of see what the next big project for our district is, especially for our new office. So, do you want a motion to direct you to go with alternative 1, John, or is it just enough to just direct staff?
I think just directing staff to set up a special meeting.
Are y'all okay with that?
I have to take responsibility for not having had made that clear before to the whole board. So that was my shortcoming. I should have made it clear before, but that was pretty much the direction that I received from the ad hoc committee. So it all makes sense, and regretfully I just had not made it clear.
Okay, so then I think it sounds like you have your direction to just move forward with alternative 1.
Yeah, the board president can actually direct staff to set up a special meeting.
Yeah,
So that's,
so I'll just work
that's
with
fine.
Debbie to do a doodle poll or something.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to item 19.
Likewise, this is another challenging situation where it is a big decision by the board, which has a lot of community involvement and concerns, and it's been a long ongoing, considerable challenge. And in this situation, staff's recommending that the board appoint an ad hoc committee comprised of 2 harbor board commissioners to, 1, review the K&N lease terms, potentially with legal counsel. I did talk briefly with legal counsel about this challenge, as I had with previous legal general counsels, but we had the changeover, so it further made this project a little bit more challenging. And then also to review the California Coastal Commission, City of Half Moon Bay Coastal Development Permit Conditions of Approval. And then 3, review the responses to an RFP for an architectural design, engineering, permitting, and construction support for a new public restroom, green space, and increased ADA parking at the Pillar Point Harbor K&N RV Park. A little background, in 1987, the district received a use permit from the City of Half Moon Bay for an RV lot at Pillar Point Harbor. In 1998, the City of Half Moon Bay affirmed that the use permit was still active, and the district entered into a lease with K&N Properties for improvements to the site and operation of an RV park. K&N received necessary building permits from the City of Half Moon Bay for development of the site and built the current RV park. Since that time, K&N has operated the Pillar Point RV Park under the lease terms, which expire in 2023. The City of Half Moon Bay subsequently adopted a local coastal plan, therefore is now responsible for issuing coastal development permits within their jurisdiction on behalf of the California Coastal Commission. the city of Half Moon Bay determined that the RV park was in need of an after-the-fact CDP. And on December 12, 2016, the district and KN Properties received the attached coastal development permit compliance order from the city of Half Moon Bay, requiring application for a CDP for the already existing RV park. The district submitted the required CDP application with KN Properties, and the Half Moon Bay Planning Commission has determined conditions of approval. The district has worked in good faith with KN Properties, City of Half Moon Bay, and the community to resolve this CDP compliance issue. The need for a new public restroom and additional ADA parking at the far east end of the RV park adjacent to Surfers Beach has in fact been identified. While the installation of a new restroom at the site is not a specific requirement of the CDP, all have agreed that a new restroom, outdoor shower, drinking fountains, green space, and additional ADA parking at the site would benefit the public and be favorable in the CDP application process approval. In an effort to professionally move forward with design alternatives for a new public restroom at the KN leased RV park in order to comply with the required CDP and to facilitate grant opportunities, staff received board approval at the December 20, 2017 meeting and the June 19, 2019 board meeting to approve or to move forward with a design consultant to produce concept sketches necessary to support grant opportunities. The city of Half Moon Bay has worked with the district to identify potential grant opportunities to fund this project and has found that the attached priority conservation area grant has a likelihood for success in funding up to $298,000 of the project cost. The district and Half Moon Bay have worked together to present site improvement alternatives and those rough sketches, those concept sketches, to the public, and based on public input, have developed a preferred alternative. The Half Moon Bay Planning Commission reviewed the district plans and has made substantial required changes in order to meet the attached new conditions of approval. The new CDP conditions of approval will have an impact on the district's lessee, KN Properties. It will reduce the leased square footage of the lessee and has specific improvements necessary for the district's lessee to make. Therefore, moving forward may require an amendment to the district KN lease. The new CDP conditions of approval have progress timelines. In order to move forward in accordance with these timelines, staff issued an RFP for design engineering and has received 3 responses from qualified architectural design firms. Due to the complexity of the KN district lease terms, new CDP conditions of approval, their time sensitivity, legal review of a potential lease amendment, and substantial potential project costs involved, staff believes the board should consider appointing an ad hoc committee to review all documents, review the RFP responses, and make a recommendation to the full board on the way forward.
Okay, thanks, John. I have a public comment from John Allman. This is the right item, right, John?
Yeah, I screwed up on 15.
That's okay, I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
that's pretty arcane on the 15 item. This is a great project, along with the presentation on the West Coast Trail repair. This is really an example of how this agency can make life better on the coast side for people in San Mateo County, and I really applaud everybody that's worked on this. I want to make sure I thank people before I get cut off. John Doty, Jill Eckes, Brittany Cozzolino of Half Moon Bay have all done a lot of work on this project. Mr. Nehan has actually made a significant concession, has expressed a lot of support for what we were all talking about here tonight. I don't know, I feel like maybe you can't say that, but he was at the meeting. The Half Moon Bay Planning Commission, Mr. Rand, was very supportive of what is being suggested here and is willing to do what, what's reasonable to make sure this happens. The fact that they're creating ADA slots, ADA bathrooms, all of that is just, you can't argue against any of that. Also, something you did not mention was that they're also planning to put in parking space for buses, so like the surf school can drop off their kids and everything, get out there to which I thought was a really neat feature that hadn't been addressed. I'm sure, Mr. Pruitt, you probably remember when it was open back in the day, and there used to be showers there so that people could shower off. That's going to be fixed. There's going to be a public shower there as part of the plan. So all in all, this is a great project. Also, Mr. Thank Mr. Moran and our district staff. They put a lot of work into it. I'm familiar with the amount of effort that it's taken to get all of the moving parts of this going in the right direction. Been working on this project myself since about 2015, which explains why I am excited about some bathrooms being built. What was the last few things? Oh, real quick, a correction, a minor one. The lease does end in 2023, but he also has the ability to extend that lease for another 25 years, so it's a 50-year lease in effect. And at 3% of revenue, Mr. Marianne, being the businessman he is going to renew that lease. But like I said, he's done a great job in accommodating what needs to be done out there to make this a great facility for everybody. And so I encourage everybody to put their support behind that. Also, I want to thank Ed. I know you were at a couple of meetings, and you saw me when I wasn't too happy about where things were going, and you saw me when I was thrilled about how things were going. And because Ed has put a lot of time into this and has talked to a lot of people about it and has put the effort, I suggested he be one of the members of the ad hoc committee. Thank you.
I'll open it up for discussion. Ed, do you have any comments?
Thank you. As some of you at least know, this project has been ongoing, at least in my world, for quite a long time, and I'm very happy that Pan Properties has finally decided to work with the district and the rest of the community. I'd also like to just put on the record that the Planning Commission at Half Moon Bay did a great job. They really are the ones that helped push this forward, and then we got help from even Coastal Commission, Coastal Conservancy. This is one of those projects when all of the agencies actually just work together to make it happen, and it looks like we're actually going to be able to do this. I'm very happy about it.
Tom?
I've seen this lot for over 25 years. I've seen it from when it was a dirt lot. I remember when people had to run away briefly, go camp at a beach and come back with development. So I'm really glad to hear that things are moving forward, and I'm especially glad to hear that Mr. Nearhand has participated up to the degree that he has.
Nancy? No comment. Yeah, I think that the progress is good too, and so I think that the ad hoc committee should include you and Tom, Ed and Tom, would all be on that committee?
I will be on the committee. I'd like to make one more comment that
Sure.
since Commissioner Brennan is not here, there's several elements of this project that are directly responsible for her. When the city came to us with the proposed plan, because they're the ones, the commission came to us, we sat down with the commission, with members of the commission, and had a discussion, and it was Commissioner Brennan who said to the commission that we need to rethink this project. So the way it was presented to us was simply just a revamp of the parking lot and a bathroom, which was definitely a plus, but we weren't there yet. And it was Brennan that said, look, why don't we rethink this, make that parking lot a more public serving facility, and it was her idea to get rid of the minimal day use parking that's there now that doesn't have any impact because it's actually not Eric Nelson, I think, from the community who works in surf school, came and said, you know, we need access so that our surf schools can maybe have a bus and have a space where we can bring people in, drop them off, and move on. And that was his idea. And so the community input was part of this, and it was really Brennan that did this. So
It was a new project, it was a lot of faith here. And just
Yeah.
the way the process went, it was inspiring. So
right. So I think she should be on the ad hoc committee.
Well, I'm appointing you and Tom, so if you would like to be on it, that would be great. I don't know about Tom yet, so if the two of y'all would like to be on it, if you don't want to be on it, it's fine too.
No, I'll be on it. I'm saying,
So I'm
I
appointing.
was advocating for Commissioner Brennan to be on it.
Thank you. Tom, would you like to be on it?
Sure.
Great. Okay, so that is the direction or the recommendation that we are appointing the ad hoc committee with Commissioners Lorenz and Mateusz. Okay, moving on to item 15, which is the, to approve the position description for Deputy Board Secretary, Julie.
Yes, the job description for administrative assistant 3 has not been updated since 2016, and there's a combination of an administrative assistant 3 and deputy secretary job duties. After comparing and examining the actual duties for the deputy board secretary, staff believes the position description more accurately reflects the duties of the position, which will help with the future recruitment. The position of the deputy board secretary reports directly to the general manager, supporting the general manager and Board of Harbor Commissioners. Unfortunately, our current deputy secretary is going to be leaving us in January, and so we're starting this recruitment process. Staff believes that an updated job description will lead us to a more thorough vetting of applicants and inform the applicants of what their actual duties will be. Some of the changes that were made in the attachment 1 deputy board secretary position includes under the essential functions a lot more detailed description of what those might be, including items like statement of facts, roster of public agency filing, the FPPC, or the 700 statements about economic interest, putting records retention policies in there. And so we used examples from other organizations to create this new deputy secretary job description. We also have minimum qualifications, which it can be a combination of education and experience that would likely provide the required knowledge and ability as qualifying. Added some language in there to say that 60 semester units from an accredited college, that could be used in place of some of the experience required in the initial job description. And then also addition that experience in the public sector setting is preferred. In addition, we took out some language that was old language, like things like desktop publishing, transcribing meeting notes, 10-key adding machines, things that we don't use anymore. The working conditions is also updated, and it specifically requires work of various shifts, including early mornings and evenings, and this position is required to work in the evenings at least once a month. So this gives the candidates more information as they apply for this job. We've also hired Andrew Nelson to help us through this recruitment so that we can get a really good candidate to replace Debbie and help our new general manager.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the position board secretary.
So moved.
You know, second this?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll open it up for discussion. I actually have a question.
I'm really glad we're gonna be using Andrew again. He did such a terrific job for us.
Tom?
No comments.
Ed?
No.
So I just have one question. Since there was there another job, just the old job description? There's no red line version, so I can't even see what the differences are, but, I mean, I trust what you did was fine. It would have been nice to see the old job description, to see how it compared to this one, if there were one. It
Yeah.
sounds like there was one, it may be really outdated.
Well, attachment 2 is the copy of the old one, and, you know, maybe I can help in the future to compare and contrast in a way that is easier for the commissioners to make the determination. A lot of these things that I'm doing right now, they are so different. And so it's hard to have like a one-to-one comparison. So instead of having a whole job description that's just all redlined,
Okay.
I've been presenting them as a new job
Job
description.
And just one last question, did Debbie, I mean, I know that y'all work closely together, and I know that you know what Debbie does, but Debbie, were you able to give some input so that there'd be an accurate and actual practice kind of application for the job? Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, she was instrumental in helping me put this together.
Thanks, both of y'all. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Right.
President Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Riley.
The motion carries. Okay, so now we're on to the policy part, and this is item 10, and I know that, Karen, you're here, Karen, do you want to do your presentation? This is for policy 6.2.5, the sexual and unlawful harassment policy.
I understood,
I
and
didn't know we were going to be here until like 2 hours or 3 hours before today's meeting, so I'm sorry.
no worries, and we had a great talk after the last meeting too about your eyesight and my lack of recognition.
Context.
Right, there you go, which was totally fine. And so, staff, Julie, has taken the lead in working with this. Procedurally for me, since I just do this work for the district, and Tricia and I have also talked about this, I know that Tricia wanted a few, I don't know if you want to chime in, there had been a couple of things about public comment time that they wanted to make sure First Amendment issues were clear in this policy. The evolution of the policy was certainly to bring it up to compliance. As you know, there's been quite a shift in California in the last few years, and new laws. The legislature has made a lot of changes. That guidance was used. So this was developed. Everybody has a copy. I don't have any kind of role in the process. It's simply, I'm here to answer questions about the policy and also to coordinate with Tricia so that, and we're in alignment, but we had a call Monday afternoon. We had a great call and kind of left it that your process is for you guys to decide. As far as me being here and available, I don't know what else you wanted to add, Tricia.
No, that's all. I think that we wanted to have some more time so that all the attorneys could be in agreement on the form of this, and just after talking Monday, it wasn't enough time to make changes and come to some sort of form that I think that we all agreed on.
I would say that it's, just so that we're clear and transparent, the only issue that was brought to my attention was a concern that, for example, if someone came to speaking publicly, that we are not in any way representing that we would infringe on First Amendment rights and that in a public forum. Is that right?
I thought it was a couple issues, but that's definitely the right track that, where we wanted to just tighten up what things would be part of the policy and what things were excluded from the policy.
And our discussion included, for example, there's been a lot more, in the past few years, recognition of businesses and entities where your employees have interactions with the public, and especially after doing the last round of sexual harassment training and working with Julie, there definitely needs for there to be a clear understanding of what it means with interactions with the public, what is covered or what may not be covered.
Any discussion?
My position on this is that there are 5 policy options on the agenda tonight, and it's a lot to look through. The changes are really substantial. And we have new general counsel, and we have a new general manager starting in December. And I'd like to put the proposed changes of all 5 of these items in the hands of our general counsel and our general manager to take a look at them and be reviewed and allow the commissioners more time to review them too.
Is that a motion?
I will make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to do that.
Did you get
But
that?
that's just my perspective.
Is there a second? Because we can still discuss it if there's a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Open discussion? Ed? Tom?
No.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, so if there's no discussion, then we'll do a roll call.
Can I just clarify that I have
Please.
it correct? So a motion to remove the 5 policies, 10 through 14, to be reviewed by council or at a later date with new council and the new general manager.
Yeah, a date uncertain, something that the work plan would allow, and give the commissioners opportunity to review the policies and understand the changes.
Okay.
I just want to say one thing. I'm glad that our employment council and our general council are talking and you're helping each other get our new general counsel up to speed, and now we're going to get our new general manager up to speed as well. So thank you for doing the hard work.
And this is obviously a lot of work, and Julie, thank you. I mean,
Yes.
I know this is extensive. I've read through these things and I've looked there. Some of them have red line changes, and I've been able to look at those, and I know this has been a monumental amount of work for you, so thank you.
Yes, thanks. Okay.
I'm sorry, I was focused on the motion. Do we have a motion and a second?
Yes, Tom seconded. So roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz?
No.
Commissioner Riley?
Hi.
President Chamberlain?
Aye. So that motion carries. And now we're on item F. There have been no discussion, or there are no full consent items. Any future agenda items? Item G. We have item H, the activity.
Future agenda items?
Yes.
I don't know if this is, I don't know how this would work as an agenda item, but I should have maybe mentioned it at commissioner comments, but there was a very derelict boat at the entrance to Princeton Harbor. And I wonder if we could, I'd like to know more about who owns that, is that on our property? Is there an opportunity to maybe paint that thing or make it look a little bit or upgrade it somehow?
That's been You're talking about the entrance to Pillar Point,
Yeah,
the old fishing boat
Yeah.
that's,
right. It used to be so cute and charming, and I really just noticed it a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, what happened to this thing?
I notice it all the time as well. Staff has, because people were getting in line and stuff, staff did in fact, do some repairs to it, last year. But it is just old plywood that's, you know, the upper structure anyway is old plywood that's just coming apart. And part of the hull, also is in disrepair as well. There is, from my gathering, a large number of the community that are very attached to that boat.
That particular one, or just having a cute boat there?
Well, that particular boat does have some history as well, has substantial history, but that type of old fishing vessel, and for a while there, we did potentially have an arrangement with a volunteer to replace it with another very much like
Sorry
boat.
to interrupt you, but
So do
you
we
guys
want,
are talking about something
do
that's
we
not
want to,
agenda.
do we want to put it on as a future agenda item? Do you want to do that?
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, could it be a future agenda? Is that something interesting to the other commissioners?
Yes.
Okay.
And staff can bring up some alternatives.
Alternatives,
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other future agenda items?
Yes, since we've now got a communications analyst with Lizzie, at what point do we reevaluate Bondini and the value that they're bringing to social media? I'd like to find out when we'd be transitioning into just having Lizzie handle those things.
Well, so you want that on future, on a future agenda, Tom?
That's what I just asked, yes.
And we are reviewing that and will have definitely considered and options for the board.
All right.
Okay.
Can I clarify something? I think because actually one of the items on here was a policy about agenda items, but as I recall correctly, in order to have a future agenda item, it needs to be
A vote.
a
The
vote
board
on
can
it.
vote on each one.
Yeah, so so Nancy, do you want to make a motion to put the boat at the low point entrance? I think that's the vote.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to put does it have a name, that boat? Name.
No, I don't remember what it is now.
Put that cute boat on the agenda for discussion about possible renovation or alternatives.
Alternatives.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Okay, Commissioner Reddick?
Aye.
President Shankarelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Reverie?
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Tom, you wanted to put the Fondini contract on the agenda?
Correct.
I'll second that.
And talk about our communications analyst and how the implications.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, Debbie.
Yes, objection.
Okay, any discussion? Ed? Tom? You make the motion. Nancy? Oh, okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Mathush?
Aye.
Commissioner Reverie?
Aye.
President Shankarelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Reddick?
That motion carries. Do you have anything?
I have a-
Okay.
I have
A public comment, okay?
I'm not sure if it's specific to
The activity report.
operations or admin.
Oh,
Operations.
the activity report, okay, which is item H, John Allen.
I missed my opportunity at public comment, I think, to say what I want to say here. Mr. Rand, you did a great job for last year. Really appreciate the work you did, the way you treated people. I think, I hope that everybody here recognizes it's not been an easy one. The five of you are not the easiest people to work with. And Ms. Moran, you've done nothing but a professional job. Julie, I really like the work you've done in the last year. I think it's really important that people acknowledge that the staff is far superior to what existed less than 5 years ago. That people here are a lot more professional, a lot more on top of things and a lot more polite to the public. Debbie? Try. Can't say, feel like I really appreciate what you do well. I appreciate working with you also.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Riley?
Aye.
President Chankrali? Aye. Commissioner Lorenz?
Aye.
Commissioner Mateo?
Aye.
Motion carries, and the meeting is adjourned at 8:25.
Because if you have an email address, we can start flooding you with copying you on emails and that sort of thing.
Thank you.